end it and see if there are any other questions that anyone may have on it before my colleague from Saskatoon University takes over as well. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Brandon-Souris will have a period of 5 minutes for questions and comments pertaining to his remarks when the House next resumes debate on the question. But now we're going to statements by members. Déclaration de député.
The honourable member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, on June 22, 1990, the League-Mage Accord was laid to rest. Canada said to Quebec, "Go home, you're just a province like any other." Brian Mulroney's idea to bring Quebec back to the fold with great honour and enthusiasm came to an end. And it's clear from the Prime Minister's comments that Canada won't be giving Quebec the respect it deserves when it comes to the Constitution. This is also what the 150th anniversary represents. Ottawa's rejection of Quebec, Ottawa telling Quebec not to rock the boat, to go along with everyone else, to be quiet and be a province like any other. Allow me to quote the former Premier Robert Bourassa. English Canada needs to understand clearly that whatever we say and whatever we do, Quebec is and always will be a distinct society that is free and capable of being the master of its own destiny and development. That was true 27 years ago, and it's still true today. Je me souviens.
Member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to give a shout-out to the Richmond Youth Honour Choir, which represents some of the best young singers in British Columbia. Sous la direction de Heidi Epp.
Under the direction of Heidi Epp and her assistant, this choir sings all styles, from Bach to Broadway musicals. It recently has a project called Listen to the Music, which will be presented to Canadians in Ottawa for Canada Day and the festivities around the 150th anniversary.
Japan, where they perform for the Emperor, and in Richmond's sister city, Wakayama. They also performed at the 2010 Winter Olympics, and their Holiday Harmonies concert is an annual favorite for locals. Mr. Speaker, I wish to congratulate the Richmond Youth Honour Choir on their 15th anniversary and wish them continuing success.
Honourable member for Westlock St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, Sunday is Father's Day, and I would like to take a moment to thank all fathers who have done so much for their children. Typically, we think of fathers as the go-to person if something needs to be fixed or if something needs to be put together. But fathers are so much more than that. Their love and selfless giving helps mold our young citizens. A father's dedication to his job as a father helps shape our young people into responsible, caring individuals. In my own life, it was my father's wisdom and guidance that helped me make me into the person I am today. Fathers provide a moral compass that children look up to and emulate in themselves when they become fathers. Strong role models create strong, healthy societies. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand here today to acknowledge all fathers who help their children face life's challenges. From tying their shoe to riding their first bike, the greatest thing a father can be is present. To my father and to all fathers across the nation, thank you for being there when we needed it. Happy Father's Day.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this week the European Union introduced visa-free travel for citizens of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko hailed this historic milestone, calling it the fall of the paper curtain between Ukraine and the liberal democratic West. And Business Ukraine magazine referred to this as Ukraine's Berlin Wall moment. Mr. Speaker, since Ukraine's revolution of dignity in 2014, walls and obstacles to Ukraine's transition into a strong, consolidated Western liberal democracy continue to fall. It's time for Canada to study the removal of visa restrictions between Canada and Ukraine, the last Soviet legacy dividing our two countries. In the meantime, let us work with Ukraine to reinstate the Youth Mobility Agreement between Canada and Ukraine to allow young Ukrainians and young Canadians to travel to our respective countries and enrich their professional and personal lives by experiencing all the benefits each of our countries have to offer.
Right on. The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, the City of Saskatoon proclaimed June 10th to 17th Filipino-Canadian Week. And don't get me wrong, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad I'm here in Ottawa, but I sure wish I could have joined the Filipino-Canadian community of Saskatoon at the City Hall flag-raising ceremony commemorating the independence of the Philippines. My riding of Saskatoon West is home to over 7,000 Filipino Canadians, a growing community of vibrant and dynamic Filipinos and Filipinas. We are proud to honor the many contributions of the Filipino Canadians in Saskatoon. They are our neighbours, our friends, our colleagues, our teammates. We are all richer for having you in our midst. I would especially like to thank the Filipino Canadian Association of Saskatoon for promoting Filipino heritage for all of us to enjoy. Please join me in congratulating the nominees for this year's Most Outstanding Pinoy Award, Hilbert McDaig, Mike San Miguel, and Vanessa Spencer. To all our Filipino Canadian friends in Saskatoon, Salamat.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure for me to rise in the House today to promote and pay tribute to the rich arts and culture community in Davenport. Theatre, film, dance, publishing, visual arts, songwriting, musicians, designers, writers, gaming, you name it, Mr. Speaker, we have it in Davenport. Earlier this year, I welcomed the Minister of Heritage in my riding. She announced funding for the new Museum of Modern Art that will not only showcase modern art to Canadians, but also showcase our very best to the world. They say that great artists provide a glimpse into the soul of the nation. Indeed, it was the artists in Davenport who saw the enormous potential of abandoned industrial segments in my riding, and through their art, transformed them into vibrant hotbeds of creativity, innovation, and life. I want to give a shout out to Theatre Centre, Rosemead Theatre, Theatre Gargantua, X-Space, Aiken Collective, Mercer Union, Clay and Paper Theatre, Arts and Craft, House of Anansi, Lift, Dare Arts, and the following dance companies: Dance Walker, Janet, Kendry, and Lua Cheyenne. As we celebrate Canada's 150, I invite my fellow members to go out and support local artists, their inspiring work and transformative contributions to their communities, and notably to this great country that we are blessed to call our home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is an incredible opportunity to unleash Canada's economy, and we can't afford to let it pass us by. A Senate study states a truly free Canada Free Trade Agreement would add $150 billion to Canada's GDP. That would mean an additional 78,000 jobs in Alberta and BC alone. Mr. Speaker, in a few short months, the Supreme Court will hear the Bernard Como case. The fact that Mr. Como was charged for buying alcohol in Quebec and bringing it home to New Brunswick shows that our current system in Canada is outdated and unconstitutional. Free trade in Canada is a constitutional right. And we are calling on the Liberals to act as an intervener in this case and defend the lower court's decision. Eliminating trade barriers between provinces is good for our economy, it's good for our businesses, and it's good for Canada. Mr. Speaker, this is not a partisan issue. This is right versus wrong. So I hope the Liberals do the right thing, they help free the beer, and they help unleash Canada's economy.
Honourable member for Cape Breton-Canso.
Mr. Speaker, later this summer, the parliamentary community will bid farewell to one of its own, Elizabeth Rhodey, Chief of Protocol for the Parliament of Canada. For more than 30 years, and may I note, 14 of them as only the third Chief of Protocol for Parliament, Ms. Rhodey has placed her talents and her expertise at the service of several Speakers of the Senate and of the House of Commons, coordinating a vast array of parliamentary events in Ottawa and across Canada. She's welcomed dignitaries from all over the world, from Margaret Thatcher to former President of the United States, Barack Obama, who, during his visit, told her admiringly, "You run a tight ship." Ms. Rhodey will cap a remarkable parliamentary career with the upcoming visit of visit by the President of Italy, then embark on the next chapter of her life. On behalf of all members in this chamber, I would like to thank her for her exemplary service and wish her all the best.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, women empowerment isn't about making women strong. Women are already strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength. It's about using that strength to build better economies, to have sound justice, to govern ourselves better. Our government continues to empower women through the gender-based plus analysis, our feminist international development policy, having more women at the decision-making table. That female perspective, that voice, must be heard as we aim to empower. That's why I've put out a call to women in Mississauga, Erin Mills, to establish a Women Council. Through this Women Council, I aim to give women a platform to engage in policy, to harness that strength. Through this council, I aim to give women in my riding a voice. because a woman with a voice is, by definition, an empowered woman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, for more than 100 years, two Quebec cities have been making significant contributions to the Canadian economy. Thetford Mines and Asbestos were two mining cities where white gold was mined, allowing workers' movements to take off and filling people with hope. Over time, this white gold lost its shine, and many well-intentioned people preferred to ban it rather than use it responsibly. It left its mark, and the mine residues, full of minerals, are just waiting to be turned into cold, hard cash. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, these well-intentioned people hold the key to a new gold rush. These well-intentioned ministers are still refusing to meet with the mayors of these two cities as requested. Thetford Mines and Asbestos are not asking for handouts. They just want to be the masters of their own destinies. In conclusion, if Thetford Mines is celebrating its 125th anniversary this year, it's because it's full of proud and determined people who never back down in the face of adversity. The Honourable Member for Orleans.
Speaker, it's with profound sadness that I rise today to mark the passing of Brigadier General Robert Haichu, a decorated veteran, a family friend, and a fellow gunner. Bob joined the Army Reserves in 1944, served the guns honorably and well, and received his commission as an officer in 1950, thus serving his nation in uniform for over 39 years. Throughout his career, General Haichu became an Army pilot. As mentioned, served on the gun lines, was an Air Observer, and was later president of the Canadian Air Observer Association. Following his retirement from the military, Bob joined a variety of organizations, being very active in the Ottawa community as he joined the Corps of Commissionaires, as well as the Gloucester Police Commission. Moi-même et toutes les générations.
Myself and many other generations owe the General a great debt for his contribution to the Canadian Armed Forces. Being a soldier was his dream.
Family and friends. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The
Honourable Member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, as Father's Day approaches, let us remember the importance of protecting men's health. We know that 70% of men's health problems can be prevented with simple lifestyle changes. Even small changes can have a positive impact on their health and well-being.
We also know that to improve the health of Canada's men is to improve the health of our families, of our communities, and of our nation. So today, I'm proud to be showing my support for Men's Health Week by wearing plaid for Dad to help raise awareness about prostate cancer. Mr. Speaker, I urge the men of my riding in Longueuil-Charlemagne and everywhere to take the time to learn about the lifestyle changes that you can make to enjoy a longer and healthier life with your family. Happy Father's Day. Bonne fête des pères.
Bravo. The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a great contributor to Canada, CFL coaching legend Don Matthews, who sadly passed away on Wednesday. The Don was one of the best coaches the CFL has ever seen. He won 231 games in the CFL, the second highest win total in the league history. The Don was the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, the Edmonton Eskimos, Montreal Alouettes, Toronto Argonauts, BC Lions, and the Baltimore Stallions. Having 9 Grey Cups and winning 5 in that role, and winning another 5 Grey Cups as defensive coordinator. The Don was chosen CFL Coach of the Year 5 times and was inducted in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in 2011. As the official opposition critic for sport and a die-hard CFL fan, it is an honor for me to stand in this House and pay tribute to such an accomplished individual. I would like to extend our sincere condolences to Don's wife Stephanie, their sons and grandchildren. Know that the whole CFL nation mourns with you, and that Don's legacy will live on for generations to come.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley North.
Mr. Speaker, all children deserve a good start in life, something that we depend on our teachers and early childhood educators to make happen. Mr. Tanya Farzani at the Seneca College's Early Childhood Education Lab School in my riding recently received the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellency and Excellence in Early Childhood Education. Tanya's achievement and dedication shines through in her work to cultivate a creative learning environment for her students. She is committed to their success. Tanya embodies the best of the critical work our educators to do every day, giving our children the skills to succeed and opening the doors to a bright future for everyone. Thank you.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, last weekend, hundreds of volunteers joined Vets Canada, also known as Veterans Emergency Transition Services Canada, for their second annual Coast to Coast Tour of Duty. The Tour of Duty is a national walk to raise awareness of veterans' homelessness and to locate veterans on the streets or in shelters in need of help. I would like to applaud the hundreds of volunteers in 17 cities for their dedication to the men and women that have served our country so very well. Since 2010, Vets Canada, a national charity and service provider of Veterans Affairs Canada, has assisted more than 1,600 homeless and in crisis veterans. Across my riding of North Island Powell River, my team and I work with vets who are facing housing challenges, high costs of medication, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Mr. Speaker, in a country as rich as Canada, our veterans should never be faced with this neglect. We must do better.
The honourable member for Calgary Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians of Turkish heritage who disagree with the domestic policies of Ankara are worried. The Turkish government has broadened its crackdown against the coup plotters to include all those who dissent with the policies of the AKP. I'm concerned that peaceful support for the Turkish opposition by Canadians of Turkish heritage in Canada is becoming the target of surveillance and intimidation. Across our border to the south on May 16th in Washington, members of the president's security entourage, the Turkish president's entourage, joined by civilian supporters, physically assaulted peaceful protesters, a moment caught on video and shared worldwide. Justly concerned about this violation of our shared values of freedom of dissent, the U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Subcommittee held a hearing on May 25th to investigate the circumstances surrounding this altercation. Now we learn that arrest warrants have been issued for 2 Canadians who assaulted protesters during that May 16th altercation. Differing opinions, dissent, and debate are welcome and encouraged in Canada. Intimidation of Canadians, regardless of their country of origin, by foreign powers is a violation of our rights, and we should guard against such illegal activity at home.
Honourable member for Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, today is the end of National Public Service Week in Canada. I'd like to take a moment on behalf of all MPs to thank all of our dedicated and committed public servants in this House, in the National Capital Region, and across our entire country. Mr. Speaker, all governments stand on the shoulders of competent and talented public servants. They administer our programs. They keep us safe. They conduct our research, help keep our environment clean, and so much more. Encore une fois, Monsieur le Président.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, I would like to sincerely thank all of the public servants who are here for us every day.
As well, Mr. Speaker, if I didn't take an opportunity to wish Happy Father's Day to all the fathers in our public service and every other father across this beautiful country. Thank you very much.
Oral questions. Questions orales. L'honorable député de Richmond.
The honourable member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, I want to start my first question by thanking Mark Bosk for his service as Speaker, as Clerk of the House. Mr. Speaker, by authorizing the sale of a company that makes equipment used to keep us and the Americans safe to Chinese, the Prime Minister has shown us 2 things this week. First of all, he's irresponsible when it comes to our national security. And secondly, the Liberals are damaging our relations with our main ally, the Americans. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister finally get his priorities straight and tell Canadians what really happened in this issue? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Science and Innovation. Mr. Speaker, national security is an absolute priority for our government. All transactions reviewed under the Investment Act are subject to a security review in several stages. We can confirm, Mr. Speaker, that pursuant to the Act, the process was followed and it was determined that there wasn't a national security risk here. During the process, Mr. Speaker, our security agencies have access to all necessary information. We have never compromised national security, and we will never do so. The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, we are tired of the rhetoric. That's not the truth. These are serious matters. A Canadian company is being sold. It is being sold to foreigners. It assures our national security without a risk assessment. Can the Liberals stop saying nonsense, talking nonsense, and immediately put in place a complete review of the national security risks involved here? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we listened to our national security experts. We listened to their advice. National security was examined as part of this transaction by people who are aware of the facts. On that basis, that they put forth recommendations and advice, and we subsequently authorized the transaction. I want to reassure the House and all Canadians, we will never compromise national security. We always take action to advance our national interests. The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, look, it's one thing taking action, and that's not what we're seeing the Liberals do. But let's move on to another topic, the infrastructure bank, that's not even been created. And we've only got an hour and a half to discuss it. The Senate is demanding a more in-depth study before going any farther. And now we've learned that the Liberals, after having chosen the location, have even chosen the CEO. If that isn't arrogance, Mr. Speaker, then I'd like someone to tell me what the right word is. When will the Liberals finally start respecting this institution and allow us to take an in-depth look at this bank? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have been very clear that no appointments will be confirmed and made until we have the legislation passed through the Parliament, and that's exactly what we have said earlier, and that's exactly what we will follow. Our goal to establish the Canada Infrastructure Bank is actually allow our municipalities and provinces to build more infrastructure that they need to create jobs and opportunities, as well as make sure that we're working with them in partnership to allow them to bring forward projects that they think are necessary for them to build.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
We already knew that the new Liberal Infrastructure Bank will offer taxpayer-backed loans and loan guarantees to cover the losses of wealthy foreign investors who build mega projects in Canada. But who will be on the bank's board? Let me quote the Finance Minister. I will say that it's not clear that the people on the board will necessarily be Canadians. So foreign financiers could help foreign financiers access $35 billion in taxpayer-backed loans and loan guarantees here in Canada. Mr. Speaker, who is standing up for taxpayers in this country?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, Mr. Speaker, unlike the Honourable Member, we have a confidence that we will be able to attract Canadians who have the talent, expertise, and we will make sure that we reflect the regional diversity of our country, that we reflect the gender parity of our country. We also attract people from diverse backgrounds. We want to make sure that the board of the Infrastructure Bank reflects who we are as Canadians, and that's exactly what we will achieve.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, who we are as Canadians, we're people who have Canadian passports. Yet the Finance Minister said that he might consider someone who has the expertise but does not have a Canadian passport. Those were his words yesterday in a Senate committee hearing, Mr. Speaker. So Canadian tax dollars will be put at risk at the aid of foreign investors who, if they lose money on an infrastructure mega project, will get backup from the people in this country who pay taxes and have Canadian citizenship. Can that minister guarantee that no one will be on the board of the Infrastructure Bank other than a Canadian citizen?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, Speaker, what the Honourable Member is failing to understand that our own Canadian pension funds, such as Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, the Teachers Pension Plan, the OMERS, Caisse de dépôt, Alberta Investment Management Corporation, they invest in other countries' infrastructure. What is wrong that we allow them and create conditions to invest in our own country, to create jobs in our own country, and allow us to strengthen our middle class in our own country to create opportunity? That's exactly what we're focused on, and the board will reflect the diversity of the Canadian communities.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Minister didn't answer the question yesterday, so I'll try again. According to the media, the Liberals plan to give the police additional powers to access Canadians' personal information on the Internet without a warrant. The Supreme Court has already ruled that a program like that would not respect the Charter. It would be a major breach of our privacy rights, and it would be another broken promises by the Liberals. Can the Minister ensure this House that no such program will exist?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the details of the legislation that will ultimately be proposed cannot be discussed until that legislation is before the House of Commons. Those are the rules of this House. But I can assure the honourable gentleman and all Canadians that the new proposals with respect to national security will fully respect the Canadian Constitution.
Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think this is the kind of assurance that Canadians expect to hear. Let's look at the government's actual record. The Liberals voted for Bill C-51 under the previous government. Then they claimed, right after they won the election, that they were preparing legislation to undo many of its provisions. And here we are, 2 years later, and Bill C-51 is completely untouched. Mr. Speaker, how can the Liberals be trusted with protecting the privacy and civil liberties of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, when the legislation is presented at this House, the honourable member will have her full answer. The fact of the matter is we've taken the last 18 months to consult carefully with Canadians. Over 75,000 submissions were received in response to our consultations, and our objective is to make sure that we accomplish two things simultaneously: keeping Canadians safe and making sure we safeguard the rights and freedoms of Canadians.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
The Finance Minister warned the Senate yesterday against splitting the infrastructure bank out. I guess the Senate's independent only when it's convenient for the Liberals. But this was exactly what the NDP had proposed to do. The Prime Minister is busy making infrastructure announcements that will be directly linked to the Liberals' infrastructure bank. But the Liberals never mentioned the privatization goal of this bank during the campaign, and now they are against taking the time to study it. Don't they understand? It looks like they have something to hide.
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, we have put forward a very, very ambitious plan to allow our municipalities to prosper. They allow them to build the infrastructure that they need to grow our economy and to reduce congestion in major urban centers, build more affordable housing, recreational, cultural infrastructure. We believe that by mobilizing institutional investors, pension funds, we can free up resources to build more affordable housing, to build more shelters for women fleeing domestic violence. That is our goal, and that's exactly what we are focused on. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly.
Same Canadians they want to work for are going to pay the tolls and user fees that come along with this privatization bank.
Now, Mr. Speaker, lots of announcements, but still a lot of questions about the infrastructure bank. Like the NDP, the Senate's calling for the bill to be split to allow for us to try to get the answers to those questions. Privatization, omnibus bills, lack of respect for Parliament. We really wonder who's in power. Was there any change, or is it really Stephen Harper on the other side? What we want to know is why the government won't allow an adequate examination of this privatization bank that will lead to tolls and user fees.
Mr. Speaker, what is different is the commitment that we have made to our Canadian communities to allow them the infrastructure they need. We are tripling our investments to $180 billion. That is a historic investment in infrastructure. And the honourable member fully well understands that in the last election, his party had no plan to build the infrastructure, and the party opposite, the Conservative Party, for a decade ignored the needs of the Canadian communities. We are here to work with them to allow them to build the infrastructure they deserve and their citizens need.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Norsat scandal, the sale of a high-tech company to foreign interest without a national review, is tarnishing Canada's international reputation. This makes no sense. Our ambassadors are ill at ease. Our international experts are concerned. Our allies are wondering what's happening. Canadians deserve better. The only way to reassure our international allies and others is by making public all documents. Why isn't the government prepared to do so? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we take national security very seriously. All investments under the Canada Investment Act are subject to a rigorous review process which contains many steps. In this case, as in all other cases, the process was followed. National security agencies undertook a review and confirmed that the security procedures and guarantees put in place are consistent with our high standards. No transaction, Mr. Speaker, would have taken place if it had not met our strict requirements regarding national security. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Now, this is unacceptable for our international reputation, Mr. Speaker. The government wants to manage this issue, but table the documents. That would eliminate all doubt. If there were no doubts, they wouldn't be afraid to table the document. Transparency is absolutely essential, and it's really costly for Canada's reputation. Why is the government refusing to take action in the best interests of Canada? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to national security matters, we base our decisions on the opinions of our experts, our national security agencies. That is exactly what we did. They were consulted. They looked at what they needed to. They had the facts available to themselves. It's not based on speculation, as the other party opposite is doing. They looked at the facts. Decisions were fact-based. This is on these matters of national security. We follow the advice of our experts.
Mr. Speaker, China isn't shy about its efforts to spy on Canada or our allies. And according to documents obtained from CSIS, China continuously targets our classified information and advanced technology. That didn't seem to stop the Liberals from allowing China's Hytera Communications to buy Norsat, a Canadian company that creates advanced technology used by our military and our allies, which is exactly what China's been after. When will the Liberals stop putting our national security at risk?
When? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Innovation and Science.
Mr. Speaker, we never have and we never will put our national security at risk. We followed a multi-stage process in this case, Mr. Speaker, and we based our decision on the opinion, the considered opinion of our national security experts. What does the other side of the House have against our national security experts, Mr. Speaker? They're the ones who have the facts in front of them, and we rely on their opinion in this process, and it's a very good process, Mr. Speaker, and we'll continue to follow it. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister would start walking the walk instead of just talking the talk, we might be able to believe him when he repeats his lines about being open and transparent. We've asked for simple answers regarding his decision to sell defense secrets to the Chinese government. Our U.S. neighbors are raising alarms about that decision. Security experts are concerned. A former ambassador has spoken out against it. Will the Prime Minister please explain to Canadians why he did not request a full, formal national security review of this transaction?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, there is a multi-stage national security review process in place. That process was followed. Within the course of that process, our national security experts, basing themselves on the facts of the case, Mr. Speaker, our national security agencies are the only people in this case who had the facts before them, unlike the opposition. We are basing our decision on their recommendation to us, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, today the Supreme Court of Canada confirmed that trials need to be conducted in a timely manner. Now, our Conservative government appointed well over 500 highly competent and diverse individuals to the bench. There was never a shortage of exceptional candidates to choose from. When are the Liberals going to get their act together and fill all these judicial vacancies?
When?
When?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is committed to ensuring that our criminal justice system keeps communities safe, protects victims, and holds offenders to account. And as the court in Cody reiterated today, every actor in the criminal justice system has a responsibility to ensure that criminal proceedings are carried out efficiently and effectively. Mr. Speaker, our minister met with her provincial and territorial counterparts in April to focus on the roles that each of our governments can play. They identified 4 priorities for legislative reform, including dealing with mandatory minimum penalties, bail and administration of justice offences, preliminary inquiries, and reclassification offences. Mr. Speaker, we're working together to address these delays.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Speaker, the Liberals aren't even appointing the necessary judicial advisory committees that give advice when making appointments. Incredibly, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, Saskatchewan, and Southwestern Ontario still don't even have a committee to advise the minister on judicial appointments. Obviously, this government has got a problem in this area. What's it going to take for them to clean up this mess?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. And I'm very pleased to advise this House that the Minister of Justice has made tremendous progress, not only in developing a system which will strengthen our judiciary to ensure that we maintain judicial excellence while reflecting the great diversity of this country. And to date, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Justice has appointed 77 judges and 22 deputy judges across the country. We have a system in place, it's being implemented, and we are seeing a significant progress.
The honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
Initially, the Liberals announced that they had no choice but to change how Parliament works. After having been openly criticized, the Liberals have done an about-face on almost everything. In their election platform, the Liberals promised to put an end to the practice whereby parliamentary secretaries determine what happens at committee. So why are the Liberals forcing through changes to the standing orders that would allow precisely that to happen?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, during the election campaign, we promised to make real change to Parliament to make it more efficient, open, and transparent. We took commitments to do so. At committee, I answered questions from members. We have a plan that I believe will work well.
La députée d'Elmwood.
Honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
I think Canadians are getting tired of the combination of high-handed actions and non sequitur answers by the Liberals. Just as they grew tired of omnibus bills under Stephen Harper's regime, and the Liberals promised in the last campaign to end them, because omnibus bills allow for the government to push through hundreds of changes at once without time for Parliament to scrutinize them or for civil society to scrutinize them, Mr. Speaker. But instead of getting rid of the practice of omnibus bills, they're proposing new rules that will legitimize the practice of omnibus bills. And we're just wondering, what happened to the Liberals at the campaign?
Speaker, as I've just said in French, during the election campaign, we promised to bring real change to Parliament to make it more effective, open, and transparent. We made specific commitments on how to achieve this. We have worked in good faith with the opposition, and we welcome a debate on the proposed change in the coming days. Yesterday, I had put in the motion for the changes. We've been working very well together. I knew we could. My door's always been open. It was good to see the members come through that door so that we could collaborate and work for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
You got to do that with your hand over your heart. It's much better. The Heritage Minister is preparing a cultural document that will determine the future of Canadian online content for providers like Google. Her chief of staff has been lobbied 6 times alone this year by Google, a company she was a top executive for. Now, under the Conflict of Interest Act, ministers' staff must abstain from participating in decisions that would place them in a conflict of interest. Mr. Speaker, the rules are clear, but the minister either ignores them or thinks they don't apply to her. Why did the minister allow Leslie Church to participate in these sensitive discussions?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, we've said it many times before, creative industries are going through a period of disruption brought on by the digital shift. The Minister has met with all major digital platforms as part of the Canadian Content in the Digital Age Review. Ms. Church's expertise and broad knowledge of the digital landscape is essential to our understanding of how to best support this sector during this transition. She has been fully transparent about her former employment, including with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner.
The Honourable Member for Barrie-Innisfil.
But she's still in a conflict, Mr. Speaker. HoC Energy recently hired the Natural Resource Minister's former Chief of Staff, Janet Ansley, worked for the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers just prior to taking the job with the minister, and HoC lobbied her just before the one-year cooling-off period began. In other words, up until she left the minister's office, she was directly involved in decisions that could directly impact her new employer. Mr. Speaker, again, the law is clear. We know conflicts of interest come natural to the Liberals, but will they stop using their offices as a resource to set their friends up for greener pastures?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Ministry of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, as we well know, all former staff are bound by a set of rules laid out by the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. Those rules are quite clear, Mr. Speaker, and those rules will be followed. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, all 5 members appointed by the Prime Minister's office to the Halifax Port Authority donated to the Liberal coffers. That's right. Their combined contributions, $76,000. Will the Prime Minister admit right now that when it comes to appointments, Liberals need only apply?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, a little bit of déjà vu here. I reject the premise of the question, of course, because we are taking a new, open and transparent approach that is merit-based, that is also taking into account diversity, including gender diversity. Now, the Port of Halifax is extremely important for Canada's economy, and I'm very proud of the 5 people that we have named because of their professionalism. This is good for the Port of Halifax. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, this is a government that when they were campaigning, they said they were going to be the most open and transparent government in Canadian history. Mr. Speaker, one of those donors gave over $50,000 to the Liberal coffers. It is truly transparent. It's transparent that if you're a Liberal donor, you get the job. If you're a Liberal donor, you get the appointment. If you're a Liberal donor, you get the project. Why is this minister putting the interests of Liberal donors ahead of everyday Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I totally reject the premise of that question. Our selection of board members for the Port of Halifax and any other port across the country is based on an open, transparent, competitive process that is merit-based and that takes into account diversity, including gender diversity as well. We're very proud of the people that we have selected for the Port of Halifax. They're a great group of people who have the interests of the Port of Halifax, the economy of Nova Scotia.
Order. There's too much noise in the chamber. Very difficult to hear the responses and in some cases the answers. I ask for order. The Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After cutting funding to 1/3 of all HIV organizations, including AIDS Saskatoon and my riding, the minister told us not to worry. She said there was $30 million of new funding for the federal initiative on HIV. Well, we've got the department documents, and guess what they say? Increase to the federal initiative on HIV, $0. Increase to the Community Action Fund, which funds these groups, $0. Can the minister explain where exactly is this funding, or did she mislead this House and Canadians?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is deeply committed to addressing HIV and AIDS in Canada, and as the Minister said yesterday, and I reiterate, In Budget 2017, it included new investments of $30 million over 5 years that will support frontline interventions to reduce new cases of HIV and Hep C by adopting a harm reduction approach. This builds, Mr. Speaker, on the $72.6 million being spent this year alone under the federal initiative to address HIV/AIDS, with $26.4 million going to community-based organizations such as the one she's referred. We continue to work closely with all our partners in order to meet our targets and eliminate AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals bungled the process to replace the Commissioner of Official Languages, and they refused to support a new process that was supported by a majority of parties in the House. What a mess. The problem is that the acting commissioner's term is up tomorrow. When the Heritage Minister was asked by my colleague from Drummond a couple of days ago, she just said, "I will get back to you in due course." Mr. Speaker, I'd like to give her the opportunity to tell us now who will be enforcing the Official Languages Act as of Sunday. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage. Canada's 2 official languages go to the heart of our culture and identity. They are a priority. We have promised Canadians a new process that's merit-based and open, and that's what we've done. The position of Commissioner is very important, and we are sure that the person recommended will have all the skills required. An announcement will be made in the days to come.
Mr. Speaker, residents of the National Capital Region understand the importance of public transit for shorter commutes, cleaner air, and a stronger economy. With the first phase of light rail nearing completion, it's important that we build on this momentum and expand the system. Can the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities please tell this House how the government is supporting the future of public transit in this, our beautiful National Capital Region?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, because of the hard work of the members of the National Capital Region Caucus, this morning, Prime Minister announced more than $1 billion toward Ottawa's light rail transit stage 2 project. This investment will transform public transit across the region and create jobs and economic growth in the National Capital Region while making communities more sustainable and inclusive. We are very proud to support the City of Ottawa and the Capital Region.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we learned that the Director of Operations for the Missing and Murdered Inquiry has resigned. That is 4 senior employees that have jumped ship in less than a year. The inquiry is losing credibility. Families are suffering with trust and trauma issues. Does the Minister not see that there's a problem? Why is there such a significant staff turnover? And what is she going to do to reassure families that she will personally make sure that this inquiry gets back on track?
Well, the Honourable Minister of Indigenous Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we're committed to ending this ongoing national tragedy. After decades of loss, discrimination, and mistreatment, families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls are speaking and feeling heard. The Commission has acknowledged the need to increase communication, and the families must be at the centre of this inquiry, and they are committed to ensuring this. I was also pleased to see the positive feedback from the first family sessions in Whitehorse. I am confident that the Commissioners have the background, the experience, and the mandate to lead this inquiry.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Speaker, the Prime Minister vowed to phase out the oil sands, and unfortunately for Canada, it seems his plan is working. Imposing a carbon tax, axing the Discovery Well tax credit, forcing his anti-oil activists onto the Energy Minister's staff. These are taking their toll. In March, there were 25 junior oil companies left in Alberta, down from close to 100. These risk takers are the heartbeat of Alberta's energy sector. When will the Prime Minister make the right priority? Why are his priorities a job-killing carbon tax and paid anti-oil activists when they should be Canada's economy and the jobs of hard-working Albertans?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Unlike the
party opposite, we understand that the environment and the economy go together. That's why we are putting a price on pollution, which will reduce what we don't want, which is pollution, and foster what we do want, which is innovation, clean growth, and good jobs. We also approved 2 pipelines, which the party opposite was unable to do. We understand that the environment and the economy go together. We want a more sustainable future for our kids, and we want clean growth and good jobs.
Honourable member for Souris, Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have calculated how much revenue could be generated from a carbon tax, but they will not release that important information. The estimated cost of the tax is $2.5 billion in Saskatchewan alone. That's right, billion with a B. In my riding, one truck company estimates this Liberal cash grab will cost them an extra $500,000 per year. Why do the Liberals refuse to disclose the cost this forced carbon tax will have on Saskatchewan families and businesses?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me be clear to the member opposite, as we've repeated over and over, that all revenues created, all revenues that are received that are put a price on pollution go directly back into the province. But let me also be clear that 80% of Canadians live in a jurisdiction where, through the leadership of the provinces, there's already a price on pollution. We're very hopeful that every province will step up, do the right thing, put a price on what we don't want, pollution, and foster what we do want, clean jobs, innovation, and a more sustainable future for our kids.
The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, every day the Liberals continue to drag their feet on the reintroduction of biosecurity measures that would help eliminate the prevention of PED outbreak on hogs in Manitoba. By doing so, they continue to put the livelihoods of farm families at risk. Manitoba farmers can't wait any longer. The time to sit around and talk is long gone. The Liberals need to listen to industry experts and take immediate action. So will the Minister of Agriculture stop ignoring the very people that he is meant to help and reintroduce the much-needed biosecurity measures immediately?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, there's no risk to human health. PED is a required reporting disease provincially and not federally. The Manitoba Agriculture Minister and the Pork Council in Manitoba are following appropriate procedures. The CFIA has offered its support, but it's too soon to tell at this stage whether what the origin of the outbreak was or the likely spread. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, after weeks of pressure from the NDP, yesterday the Liberals announced they were reversing their plans to eliminate 2 important marine programs. Firstly, I want to thank all those across BC who reached out and spoke up. Together, we were able to turn the tide. But there's much more we can do and need to do. For example, the salmon run in the Somas is down from 1.3 million last year to only 170,000 this year. What is this government going to do to provide immediate support for this vital BC resource and those who depend on it?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that wild salmon are the lifeblood of the West Coast, which is why our government is investing significantly in managing and restoring our wild Pacific salmon stocks. In addition to our continued support for the Salmon Enhancement Program, we have announced a new $75 million coastal restoration package as part of our $1.5 billion Oceans Protection Plan, and a further $1.4 billion investment as a result of the Department's recent comprehensive review. This means more evidence-based decision-making, more scientists, more habitat restoration, and more community partnerships, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to ensuring that our wild salmon thrive for the benefit of our communities and our future generations.
The Honourable Member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, last year the NDP introduced a motion calling on this government to reinstate the Perishable Agricultural Commodities Act. Since this was a Liberal campaign promise, growers across Canada were deeply disappointed when it didn't happen. The Agriculture Committee also unanimously urged the minister to implement a payment protection model, but we still haven't heard anything. When will the Liberals take action for our farmers and growers across Canada, do as they promised, and reinstate PACA?
Secretary Parlementaire, the Minister d'Agriculture.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I misunderstood the question. Could he ask it again?
The time limité.
Time is limited. The Honourable Member for South Okanagan.
Si vous êtes continu.
If you could repeat the question, please, briefly.
The question is about the Perishable Agriculture Commodities Act. It was a Liberal promise to reinstate it. It hasn't been reinstated despite calls from growers and the NDP and the Agriculture Committee. So when will the Liberals take action and reinstate the Perishable Agricultural Commodities Act?
Secretary Parlementaire.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the question. We are currently analyzing the situation in order to respond to the question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Minister, about the CRA's new tax grab on small businesses like campgrounds and self-storages. However, she's just going to stand up again and once again completely insult small businesses by saying they need to start paying their fair share. And then she'll falsely claim that the Liberal government hasn't changed the tax rules. Is she really that incompetent, or has she finally checked her facts, realized that she's totally wrong, and changed her talking points?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to ensuring every Canadian pays their fair share of taxes. We continue to support small and medium-sized businesses from coast to coast to coast because we recognize that they are the backbone of our economy, Mr. Speaker. Our commitment to tax fairness is at the core of our mandate, and our government will continue to support small and medium-sized businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Banff Airdrie.
Well, gee, it's almost like I predicted what she was going to say. Now I think they're going to next claim that we failed to act on this somehow. Well, Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government, in fact, conducted a review of this issue in 2015, but those Liberals cancelled that review and then immediately came out with a new interpretation of the rules, and small businesses started receiving huge new tax bills. They even ignored a Finance Committee report that recommended these rules be fixed. It seems the only thing the Liberals are not ignoring is another attempt to punish small businesses. So will the Liberals stop this war on small businesses, or is the minister just going to get up again and tell them they need to start paying their fair share?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind the member opposite that when his party was in the government, they held consultations with stakeholders and decided not to move forward on such legislative change. Mr. Speaker, we continue to support our small and medium-sized businesses from coast to coast to coast because they are the backbone of our economy, Mr. Speaker. Our commitment to tax fairness is at the core of our mandate, and our government will continue to support small and medium-sized businesses. Thank you.
Member for Peace River, Westlock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And once these small businesses have gone bankrupt, I'm sure the Liberals will be handing out subsidies to them. Mr. Speaker, Nathan has a small farm in my riding. In order to make ends meet, he works for other farmers in the area. One of the farmers he works for happens to be his dad. Now, Liberal changes to the small business tax credits means that arm's-length organizations that exist within farm families must share one small business tax credit. This means Nathan and his dad must now decide how they're going to divide their small business tax credit. Why are the Liberals using the tax code to hurt farm families like Nathan's?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
This government is committed to supporting our job creators, which are small businesses. We made a commitment to Canadians that we will help our small businesses grow through innovation and trade, and that's exactly what we're doing. We know when it comes to the products and services that our small businesses offer in this country, not only are they good for Canadians, they are good for the world. Small businesses are in communications with us every day. We listen to the very real challenges they are facing. We need them to be able to grow, to create the jobs that Canadians need. We will continue to support our small businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, I, like many of my colleagues, hear regularly about three issues: a strong, evolving economy that leverages Canada's skills, trades, and expertise, a strong, vibrant commitment to the protection of the environment, where innovation creates good jobs, and a strong, clear plan that ties together innovation, infrastructure, and the environment where the next generation economy works for all Canadians. Can the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change please update this House on how the Low Carbon Economy Fund will help address these issues? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
I would like to thank the member from Guelph for his excellent question. The Low Carbon Economy Fund will support the best and most innovative ideas to reduce our emissions for the good of our children and grandchildren and will create good jobs. This will support projects that will make our homes and buildings more efficient, help companies innovate and access technologies to reduce their emissions, help the forest and agriculture sectors enhance their capacity to capture carbon and to reduce emissions. I'm excited to move forward on this key pillar to supporting our pan-Canadian framework on clean growth and climate change. It's about a more sustainable and cleaner future for our kids and grandkids.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. When it comes to creating jobs, this government has a partner in the INO in the rapid startup of new, innovative and prosperous businesses, be it in Ontario, Alberta, BC or Quebec. The Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development said in the House on February 22nd that he supported its expansion. Since then, nothing has budged. Radio silence. Why aren't the Liberals doing anything? Has the minister had a change of heart? When's he going to invest in the expansion of this world leader, the National Optics Institute, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister. Mr. Speaker, we supported the INO last year in Budget 2016. We will continue to support and invest all across the country in innovative industries, Mr. Speaker, and we created 250,000 jobs in the last 6 months, Mr. Speaker. Those are figures that the previous government never saw. It's fantastic, our record so far, and it will continue.
Senator.
Mr. Speaker, with the new changing economy moving towards knowledge-based digital economy, we need to make sure we have talent needed to complete the global economy. We need to focus on our own young people and make sure they have the necessary knowledge and skill to compete and succeed in the new economy. Can the Parliament Secretary please explain what steps the government is taking to ensure the young people are ready for the economy of today and tomorrow?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the hard-working member from Brampton Centre for his question. Mr. Speaker, we are working hard to ensure that Canadians have the necessary skills to fully participate in the new digital economy. Wednesday, Mr. Speaker, I was delighted to join the Minister and a bunch of kids from Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa who were here in Ottawa to launch CanCode, which over the next 2 years will give 500,000 students from kindergarten to grade 12 the opportunity to learn in-demand skills, especially encouraging young women, Indigenous Canadians, and other underrepresented groups. Mr. Speaker, we're investing in our young people today to ensure that they are ready to meet the...
The Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, Jasper National Park, one of Canada's major tourist destinations, has been devastated by the pine beetle infestation. Much of the forest is dead or dying. The dead trees are a tremendous fuel load and present a significant risk to the community of Jasper. Residents are concerned for their own safety and that of the visitors and the security of their homes. With a high risk of wildfires fueled by a forest devastated by the pine beetle, have the Liberals put a plan in place to protect this park?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is absolutely committed to the ecological integrity of our national parks. That is my first priority as the minister. We are working very hard in all of our parks, including Jasper National Park. I look forward to talking to the member further about this and seeing how we can move forward. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the government of Quebec is asking Ottawa to transfer ownership of 25 federal ports on the St. Lawrence, 5 of the 25 federal ports on the St. Lawrence. It's a good idea because when it comes to port maintenance, the Government of Canada is not only negligent, it's just plain irresponsible. Yet more proof of the price Quebec has paid for being subjugated to Canada. Will Ottawa transfer the 5 ports in question to Quebec, along with the $100 million to fix the mess they've created with this infrastructure? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, we're very proud of our cooperation with the province of Quebec, particularly because of their marine strategy. And I spoke with Jean Damour, the minister, and Premier Couillard yesterday about the transfer of ports. And I know they're interested in those 5 ports. The negotiations will begin soon. This is work that will be done cooperatively between the federal and provincial governments, and I'm sure it'll be a beautiful partnership. Thank you. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Another meaningless answer. Mr. Speaker, with the Infrastructure Bank, Canada can decree that high finance is above the law of Quebec. Environmental protection, farmland, urban planning, there are no guarantees anymore. Quebecers should just sit down and let Toronto decide. For weeks, the Liberals have been saying that that's not what they intended. So if the government doesn't mean to feed Quebec to the lions at the Infrastructure Bank in Toronto, why don't they amend C-44? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Very clear, and I assured the House number of times that Infrastructure Bank and any project undertaken by the Infrastructure Bank would have to abide by the provincial rules, municipal rules. So we respect the local jurisdiction. I'm proud to say that this week we made a significant investment in the city of Montreal supporting REM projects. That's going to create 34,000 jobs in that region. That's the kind of investment we want to make sure that our municipalities have the right tools to grow their economy and create jobs. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, there's no one in Quebec who supports the government on this. No one. Not a single expert agrees with the government. Not one. The National Assembly is unanimous. Unanimous. Is it clear? In their condemnation of C-44. There's no one. The farming community is against it. The government's all alone except for the usual 40 ghosts playing cheerleaders on the Liberal benches. Is there anyone on the other side of the House, just one person who would stand up for once and say no to disarming Quebecers against the Infrastructure Bank? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Let me assure once again the Honourable Member that we have a very strong working relationship with the province of Quebec, and the bank would have to abide by all the rules that are in place in every province and municipalities. On top of that, bank will work very closely with provinces and municipalities to bring forward projects that communities need. 34,000 jobs, Mr. Speaker, created under one project only for the province of Quebec. We are proud to be working with them, and we're proud to support them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question's for the Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of visiting the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in the riding of Kanata Carleton. I was happy to donate to the Society's North of 60 project, which is a national initiative aimed at providing food, supplies, and goods and other goods to northern communities, including 5 communities in Nunavut. While Nunavut are thankful for such generosity, they're also eager to see what changes have been made to the Nutrition North program. Can the Minister update the House on when Nunavut can expect the changes to be made? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Affairs.
I thank the member for his advocacy on this file. It's completely unacceptable that so many Northerners are still struggling to feed their families. I'm pleased to announce that the findings from the Nutrition North community engagement sessions are now available online. Our government is considering all the feedback received during the recent engagement and is collaborating with Northern and Indigenous organizations to update the program to be much more reflective of Northerners' needs. Together, we can ensure that Northern families have access to affordable, healthy food.
That will bring question period to a close for today. Tabling of documents. Dépôt de documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And pursuant to Standing Order 32, Section 2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the report, Cyber Threats to Canada's Democratic Process. Thank you.
Dépôt de documents, l'honorable secrétaire.
Tabling of documents, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Speaker, and on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and pursuant to Standing Order 32.2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaty entitled First Amendment to the POO Convention, adopted with Decision 214 at the second session of the meeting of the parties to the POO Convention in Sofia from February 26-27, 2001. Second Amendment to the POO Convention, adopted with Decision 3-7 at the third session of the meeting of the parties to the POO Convention in Kaptat from June 1st to 4th, 2004. An explanatory memorandum is included in this treaty.
Tabling of documents. The